Vanessa Redgrave has been called the greatest actress in the English-speaking theater, but she has an Achilles heel, her radical politics. For a time she felt she was blacklisted, but she thinks that's over now. Because of all of that, she's been almost impossible to interview. Recently she's been insisting on veto power or strict limitations on reporters' questions. When we sat down and talked with her about doing an interview, we agreed to only one condition, that we do not ask her about her specific views on political issues. The fact is, what we were looking for was a Vanessa Redgrave you haven't seen, a woman with daughters who are rather blunt about their mother, the actress, and their mother, the outspoken ideologue. So come backstage with us now with Vanessa Redgrave. She's working in the American theater for the first time in 12 years in the Tennessee Williams play, Orpheus Descending.
5 minutes, please, Vanessa.
Thank you, Bill.
The very first professional job that I earned money was weekly repertory, 10-week summer season in a tin shed at a seaside resort in England.
Tell me how you felt as you walked onto that stage.
I was just overjoyed. I thought, here I am at last.
But you've made it.
Yes, I've made it. I'm on the stage.
How old were you?
Earning money. Oh, I was quite old. I was 20.
Were you good on stage?
Well, I thought I was awfully good. Until my father saw one of the things I thought I was awfully good in, and he said, "Why are you jumping up and down and bouncing like that?" And I said, "Well, because I think this lady is a very little fat lady, and I think she jumps up and bounces all the time." And he said, "But you are a very tall, thin lady, and I don't understand why you're jumping up and bouncing all the time."
This wasn't just any father talking. It was the great classical actor, Sir Michael Redgrave. And Vanessa's mother is actress Rachel Kempson, most recently seen in Jewel in the Crown. You came from such an incredible family of actors. More than 100 years of acting.
But you see, I never thought of it like that. If I had, I'm sure I'd have just said, "Oh, no," and ran away, and I can't do this. But I just didn't see it like that. And I've loved my parents' work. I was fascinated by my parents' work and everybody else's. But I wasn't thinking about the generations. No, my granny was my granny, and I was counting on her to give me £1 for Christmas.
So when was it that you decided that you would indeed become an actress?
When I really knew that I couldn't dance. I wanted to be like Margot Fontaine, like every young person pretty well of my generation did. It couldn't possibly be because I was far too tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'11" without any shoes.
Has that ever been a problem with the people that you're working with?
Oh, yes, it has, yes. For me, not for them. It was a torment to me to be so tall when I was very young.
I would think that you could command a good deal of presence with that height.
Yes, but you don't want to command a good deal of presence. You know, you want to be like everybody else.
Looking at her public life, it's hard to believe Redgrave just wanted to be like everybody else. But after you talk with her for a while, you realize there's still a smidgen of a teenage dancer screaming to get out.
And I think that dancing is exactly the same thing. That when it isn't possible any longer to sit still, a human being jumps up right out of the frame.
Quite frankly, I can't see you popping up and dancing to some music that you're hearing on the radio.
Yes, I mean, even though I'm 52, I still do that, but that's, perhaps I don't do it as much as when I was young, because...
When she was young, her parents often were away working on different continents. There were long periods of separation. You mentioned that your parents, if they weren't in London, in America, and what have you, right? There were long periods of separation. You were left alone, no?
Yes, we were. We didn't, well, that's to say we didn't have our parents, but...
Did you ever resent that?
No, never. Absolutely never, because when your parents are in a profession, that's what their work is. You know that that's how they're paying for your education, for your food, that's their life. You don't resent at all. You miss them sometimes very much.
Is it that Vanessa Redgrave was, and always has been, a very strong young woman?
No. No, Vanessa Redgrave hasn't always been any of those things. What I'm trying to explain to you, Connie, is that when you're in a profession like the theatre, things that seem very extraordinary to other people don't seem extraordinary to you at all.
What is extraordinary about Redgrave's work is her ability to completely get under the skin of a character. In the television movie Second Serve, she played a man, Rene Richards.
Who does this belong to?
It belongs to me.
Belongs to you?
Yeah.
She has the opposite approach to work to most actors. Most actors start in the shallow end and swim with slow, careful strokes to the deep end. She throws herself into the deep end.
26-year-old Natasha Richardson is the daughter of Vanessa and film director Tony Richardson. Their marriage lasted 5 years. Natasha started acting in her parents' films when she was a toddler. In the movie Patty Hearst, Natasha proved she has the Redgrave pedigree. In it, you have to remind yourself you're watching an English actress.
Name?
Patricia Campbell Hearst.
Occupation?
Urban gorilla. I think if you come from a family that has been in the same business for a long time, you either run in the opposite direction or you join the family farm.
Do you encourage your children to pursue acting?
Well, they would laugh at me if I if I tried to either stop them or anything. I give them what encouragement I can.
She was always pushing us towards professions like teachers or doctors or things that directly helped other people. She always thought were far more worthy. And my father always said, oh no, be glamorous, be actresses. All of that. So we had these two different opinions. But I think when Tasha and I decided to go into it, she was completely supportive.
24-year-old Jolie is the second daughter of Redgrave and Richardson, seen here in a movie called Weatherby.
Whenever we'd come out here to LA to visit my father for the vacations, it was always an eye-opener because the world of showbiz was so unlike our everyday life. And again, when I had friends home from school, they were always amazed because, we didn't live in a smart place at all. And they were always, oh, this is where you live. Your mother was a famous actress. And that just wasn't her style. It never has been.
Do you criticize them? Do they criticize you?
They criticize me an awful lot. I must say that I don't find very much to criticize in their work. I've been amazed at both of their work, but they find a lot to criticize in my work, and I've learned a lot from their criticism.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am very serious.
But you're the one with the experience.
Well, that's the way we all think things are, but things aren't like that. Just as I could spot things in my father, though I didn't have the same relationship with my father as my girls have with me, but...
What do you mean?
Well, I didn't feel that, at all that I could criticize him. I felt almost ashamed of having a criticism of him. That was my feelings about my father. So I'm terribly glad when my girls do to me, because I know that if it wasn't for them, sometimes I wouldn't pull up short and think, wait a minute, what you're doing is crap. Come on.
I was in Florida just before she went off to shoot Pain of the Time, and she had this beautiful long red hair, and when we went out, she visited me in Florida, and every time we went out, she'd put a scarf on, and I said, Ma, why are you putting a scarf on? It's only sunshine. She'd say, oh, I don't want to ruin my hair, and all of that, and then a week later, she had it all shaved off.
In the 1982 television film Playing for Time, Redgrave won an Emmy for her portrayal of Fania Fenelon, a woman who survived the Nazi concentration camp because of her special musical gifts. The role required Redgrave to sing.
My teacher said with singing, he said, look, stop listening to yourself and trying to make these notes like you've heard singers make that you think are so wonderful and sometimes are. Stop it. Just think about what you're singing about. You said the only difference between singing and acting is that your feeling is so enormous about what is going on that you have to sing instead of speak. I remember Daniel Mann, the director, was marvellous because he absolutely insisted, although we were very short of time, he'd say, we've got to all stop for 10 minutes, all hammering, all knocking, all fixing of lights, all adjustments, all dollies, so we can concentrate on where we are and why we're here. And we were all very grateful to him for that. It would have been a mockery of the whole suffering of the people in the camps, of the Jewish people, of the political people, of all those who lived and died in those camps if we hadn't have just given everything that we got.
Redgrave's pro-Palestinian sympathies were a serious bone of contention when she was cast for this part. But afterwards, and even during the making of the film, her commitment to the character and the message were not disputed.
I think the character that she is most like is the character of Julia in the film of the same name with Jane Fonda. I think that's one of her favorite parts. It's very close to her. It's a woman of strong political principle and bravery and massive vulnerability.
My beloved friend, please.
When Redgrave accepted an Academy Award for Julia, her controversial political comments began a dark period in her career. In 1982, the Boston Symphony Orchestra canceled her scheduled performance because of pressure from her critics. She sued. She was a pariah in America. No work in Hollywood motion pictures or on Broadway for almost a decade.
I have been blacklisted, but now this period is over, and the reason why it's over, the period of blacklisting me, is because so many people from every walk of life, and certainly very different views than my own, felt that it was absolutely necessary that nobody should be deprived of work or silenced as an artist because they have a different view from somebody else.
Clearly, the political views have affected the acting career.
You mean in the sense that I didn't get work for a period? Yes, certainly.
She has always been under enormous pressure from her family to cool it with her politics. Enormous pressure, emotional blackmail, you name it. And she hasn't caved in, whatever her private thoughts are about what opportunities she might have missed because of it.
What price are you willing to pay to put your political beliefs ahead, no matter how much it hurts your acting career?
My belief, which isn't for me a political issue, is that every artist has the right to be seen, to be watched, to be listened to, should anyone wish to, and not to be deprived of work and not hung and not exhibited because of their political views. In other words, they've the right to be an artist.
She wasn't embittered. I think that, which is remarkable, which is something that I admire in her, because had it been me, I think I would have taken it inside and got incredibly bitter or upset or devastated or left the country or left the world or something.
There were times when I was growing up when I found it very hard to understand why she was so politically active. I found it hurtful because I could see people saying hurtful things about her in the press. People at school would say things like, your mother's a commie, which was very hurtful. I don't share her politics, but I admire her so much for being able to stand up for what she believes in.
Would you ever refuse to work with someone whose political views were so divergent from yours and you found absolutely repulsive?
No, I wouldn't. I will work and will never deprive somebody whose views I disagree with of work. Never, 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 never. But I find it absolutely impossible to tolerate that should happen to anybody.
Next Sunday, Vanessa Redgrave ends her 14-week run on Broadway. Tomorrow night in New York, she'll be hosting and performing in a concert. It's called The Wall Breaks, to benefit artists in the Soviet Union whose works have never been heard or seen before. We'll be right back.